It was supposed to be just another quiet training camp, controlled reps, media smiles, safe expectations. That's what the league told itself. That's what coaches promised behind closed doors. Keep it calm. Keep it structured. Keep the spotlight manageable. But nobody, absolutely nobody, was prepared for what actually walked into that gym. Because Caitlin Clark didn't arrive to participate. She arrived to take over. The first pass snapped through traffic before defenders even realized the play had started. The second, a no-look dagger that froze an entire defensive unit mid-rotation. By the third possession, practice didn't feel like practice anymore. It felt like exposure. Veterans were glancing at each other. Coaches stopped talking. And somewhere in the background, assistants started rewriting everything they thought this offense would be. This wasn't hype. This was disruption. Every drill turned into a statement. Every possession turned into pressure. Because the moment Clark touched the ball, the entire structure bent around her. Spacing stretched. Defenders panicked. Teammates adjusted in real time, like they were trying to catch up to a speed they weren't ready for. And that's when the whispers started. Not from fans. From inside the gym. Because when one player changes everything this fast, it doesn't just create excitement. It creates tension. It creates questions. And most dangerously of all, it creates a power shift nobody planned for. And what happened next inside that camp is where everything started to unravel. The Indiana Fever didn't just walk into this season with expectations. They walked in carrying pressure that had been building for months, maybe even years. Because this wasn't supposed to happen this fast. Not this aggressively. Not this loudly. Before Caitlin Clark ever stepped into that gym, there was already a system in place. A hierarchy. A rhythm. Veterans like Kelsey Mitchell had carved out their roles through years of grinding in a league that doesn't give anything away. Aaliyah Boston had established herself as a cornerstone. Coaches like Stephanie White came in with structured philosophies, defensive principles, controlled pace, discipline over chaos. Everything had a plan. Everything made sense. Until it didn't. Because the moment Clark entered that environment, the timeline accelerated in a way nobody could control. Suddenly, it wasn't about gradual development anymore. It wasn't about easing into greatness. It was immediate, violent, unavoidable. The league's biggest spotlight didn't just follow her, it exploded around her. And that changed everything inside that locker room. Teammates who were used to steady growth now had cameras on every movement, every pass, every missed shot, every facial expression. What used to be internal adjustments became public debates overnight. Social media didn't wait. Analysts didn't hesitate. And fans, they chose sides before the first real game even tipped off. Because with Caitlin Clark, it was never just basketball. It was identity. It was attention. It was power. And inside that gym, that power shift was impossible to ignore. You could see it in the way practices tightened, in the way possession slowed for a split second when she touched the ball, like everyone was recalibrating in real time. Some players leaned into it. You could see the excitement, the opportunity, the belief that this was something special building. But others? They hesitated. Not openly, not dramatically, but subtly, quietly. The kind of hesitation that doesn't show up in stats, but changes everything in chemistry. Because when one player becomes the center of everything, it forces everyone else to redefine who they are. And not everyone is ready for that. Behind closed doors, conversations started shifting. Not confrontations yet, but questions. About roles. About touches. About control. About who this team actually belonged to now. And Stephanie White? She felt it before anyone said it out loud. Because this wasn't just about managing talent anymore. This was about managing transformation. And the deeper this camp went, the clearer it became that something inside this team was changing faster than anyone could handle. At first, it looked like dominance. That's how it always starts. Clean passes, perfect reads, teammates scoring easier than they ever had before, the offense flowing like it had finally found its identity, coaches nodding, media clips going viral, everything on the surface screaming one thing: this is working. But beneath that, something else was building. Because dominance doesn't just elevate a team, it exposes it. And it only took a few closed-door scrimmages for that reality to hit like a shockwave. Defenders started pressing higher, harder, trapping Clark the second she crossed half court. Not casually, aggressively, desperately, like the only way to survive her was to break the structure entirely. And for a moment it worked. The rhythm cracked, timing slipped, passes came a fraction late, and that's when the first real tension surfaced. Not loud, not explosive, but undeniable. Because when the ball left Clark's hands under pressure, what happened next didn't always match the chaos she created. Missed reads, hesitation, shots that didn't fall. And suddenly, the question nobody wanted to ask started hanging in the air. Was the system ready for her? Or was she too far ahead of it? You could see it on the sidelines. Assistants whispering, rotations being adjusted mid-drill, Stephanie White stepping in more frequently, stopping plays, resetting spacing, demanding structure, trying to pull control back into something predictable. But Clark? She wasn't playing predictable. She was playing inevitable. And that's where everything collided. Because every time the system tried to slow things down, she sped them back up. Every time structure tried to contain the moment, she broke it wide open again. Deep threes, cross-court lasers, possessions that didn't look coached, they looked unleashed. And teammates were caught in between. Do you follow the system? Or do you follow her? That split-second hesitation started showing up everywhere. Not enough to collapse, but enough to disrupt. Enough to create doubt. Enough for defenders to sense weakness and push harder. And then it happened. One possession, one breakdown, one moment where two players cut to the same spot. The spacing collapsed, and the ball sailed out of bounds. Silence. Not the normal kind. The uncomfortable kind. Clark turned, frustration flashing for just a second. A glance. Quick but sharp. The kind that says more than words ever could. A teammate looked away. Another clapped, trying to reset energy. Coaches stepped in immediately. Again. Run it again. But the damage? Already done. Because that wasn't just a bad play. That was the first visible crack. And once cracks appear in something this intense, they don't stay hidden for long. They spread. And what came next turned that quiet tension into something the entire league couldn't ignore. It didn't stay inside the gym. That was the mistake. Because in today's WNBA, nothing stays quiet. Not when Caitlin Clark is involved. Not when cameras are everywhere. And definitely not when tension starts leaking through body language alone. It began with a clip. 8 seconds. No audio. No context. Just a broken possession, a missed rotation. And that one look. Clark turning, frustration flashing, a teammate looking away. That was all it took. Within minutes, it was everywhere. Chemistry issues? Locker room divide? Is Clark already clashing with teammates? The headlines didn't ask questions. They created narratives. And the internet? It exploded. Fans split instantly. One side defending Clark, pointing to her vision, her pace, her ability to elevate everyone. The other side pushing back, arguing that basketball isn't built on one player controlling everything, no matter how talented. And right in the middle of it all, the Indiana Fever, a team that hadn't even played a real game yet, suddenly at the center of the biggest storm in the league. Kelsey Mitchell's name started trending. Aaliyah Boston's body language got dissected frame by frame. Even Stephanie White wasn't safe. Clips of her stopping practice, correcting Clark, went viral with captions questioning who was really in control. And then came the league voices. Former players, analysts, insiders, some praising Clark's brilliance, calling her a generational force the WNBA must adapt to. Others warning, carefully, but clearly, that teams built around one gravitational star can fracture if balance isn't maintained. That word kept coming up, balance, because what people were starting to realize, this wasn't just about wins anymore. This was about identity. Was this still a team? Or was it becoming something else entirely? Inside the Fever organization, the pressure tightened. PR teams monitoring every post. Coaches addressing distractions. Players being asked questions they weren't ready to answer yet. And Clark, she stayed quiet. No tweets. No reactions. No interviews feeding the fire. Just practice. Just work. But silence in moments like this doesn't calm the storm. It fuels it. Because while she focused on the court, the world outside kept escalating. Every new clip got analyzed. Every interaction got magnified. And the story started evolving into something bigger than basketball, something heavier, something dangerous. Because now, it wasn't just about whether Caitlin Clark was taking over camp. It was about whether the rest of the team was being left behind. And as the noise grew louder, one question started echoing across the entire league. What happens when this pressure finally hits the court for real? The answer came faster than anyone expected. Not in a game, not under bright arena lights, but in a closed scrimmage where there was nowhere to hide. Because pressure doesn't wait for opening night. It tests you the moment cracks appear. And this time, the defense didn't just adjust, they attacked. Full court pressure, double teams before half court, hands in every passing lane, bodies bumping, collapsing, daring anyone else on the floor to take control. It was a message. If Caitlin Clark is the engine, shut the engine down. For a few possessions, the gym felt different, slower, heavier. The offense didn't snap the same way. Teammates hesitated just long enough for defenders to recover. The rhythm, the one that looked unstoppable days earlier, started to stutter. And that's when all eyes turned to the sideline. Stephanie White didn't call timeout immediately. She watched, studied, because this was the moment she'd been waiting for. Or maybe the moment she feared. What do you do when your entire system starts collapsing under the weight of its own star? Do you pull back? Or do you double down? Clark didn't look at the bench. She didn't slow down. She stepped deeper. One dribble past the logo. Another. The trap came again. Two defenders, aggressive, suffocating. And then, she split it. A violent, impossible burst through a gap that didn't exist a second earlier. The help defense rotated late. Too late. A no-look pass fired to the corner. Lexi Hull, wide open. 3. Next possession. Same pressure. Same trap. Different outcome. Clark didn't pass. She pulled. From deep. From disrespectful distance. Splash. And just like that, the gym changed again. Energy snapped back. Teammates started moving with confidence instead of hesitation. The defense, just seconds ago aggressive, took a half step back. That's all it takes. Half a step. And she owns everything. But here's the part nobody was ready for. It wasn't the shot. It wasn't the pass. It was what happened after. Because as the play reset, as players jogged back, as coaches processed what they just witnessed, Stephanie White didn't celebrate. She didn't smile. She didn't clap. She folded her arms. And for a split second her expression said everything. This works. But at what cost? Because when one player becomes unstoppable, you don't just build around them. You become dependent on them. And dependency in this league? It doesn't win quietly. It explodes under pressure. The Fever walked out of that scrimmage with answers, but also something far more dangerous. A truth they couldn't ignore anymore. Caitlin Clark wasn't just leading this team. She was becoming the system. And if that system ever fails, there may be nothing left to fall back on. And that's when the real question hit everyone watching. Is this the rise of a dynasty? Or the beginning of something the league has never seen before? And now everything comes down to you. Because what you just witnessed isn't just another WNBA storyline. It's a turning point. Caitlin Clark isn't just changing games. She's changing power. She's forcing teams to adapt, exposing systems, shifting locker room dynamics, and pulling the entire league into a new era, whether they're ready or not. But here's the real question. Is this dominance sustainable? Or is this the kind of pressure that eventually breaks everything around it? Because we've seen flashes of greatness before. We've seen stars rise. But we've never seen something like this fast, this intense, this disruptive. And the reactions? They're already dividing the basketball world. Some are calling it the birth of a dynasty. Others are warning this could turn into chaos if the balance isn't fixed. So now I want to hear from you. Is Caitlin Clark elevating the Indiana Fever to unstoppable levels? Or is this system becoming too dependent on one player? Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. And if you think this story is just getting started, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay locked in. Because what happens next might shake the entire WNBA.